welcome to the program. We have a big show today. Donald Trump increases his lead over Kamala Harris in prediction markets and polls. And we're going to cover a story today that's not going to receive a lot of media attention. It's the Kamala Harris plagiarism story. In her book, Soft on Crime from 2009, it appears that Kamala Harris is now accused of lifting whole sections of her book. So we're going to have a look at this. But first, of course, let's have a look here at the prediction markets. Polling market, Donald Trump increases his lead 57.5%. And as we're getting closer now to the election, we can see the trend is now favoring Donald Trump. Kamala Harris trending down. Swing states, now Donald Trump leading in every single one of them except Nevada. And the popular vote, Trump gaining 4 points here. It seems that even on that metric, which has always favored Democrats, then Donald Trump is gaining ground steadily. 40% chance of a Republican sweep, which was 39 at the last video that we covered. 21 days left in this election, and Trump gaining 2.5% today. And one of the reasons why he's gaining today is this Bloomberg interview that he did today, a very adversarial interview. Bloomberg, of course, if you remember, Michael Bloomberg was running as a candidate in 2020 for the Democratic ticket. He did not go far. Of course, Joe Biden ended up getting the nomination. But here he was at the Economic Club in Chicago answering questions from a Bloomberg journalist. Let's have a quick look here at how he handled it.
President Trump, at the moment there is a thing called the Trump trade in the markets. Do you know what that is? The Trump trade is very simple. People are betting that your policies are going to drive up debt, they're going to drive up inflation, so they're going to drive up interest rates. Are the investors wrong?
Yeah, I had 4 years no inflation. I had 4 years no inflation.
But that was when you had much.
I had 4 years. It's better than that. And Biden, who has no idea where the hell he is, okay? Biden went 2 years with no inflation because he inherited from me. And then they started spending money like drunken sailors. They spent so much money. It was so ridiculous, the money they were spending. They were spending on the Green New Scam. The Green New Scam, the Green New Deal, you know, it was conceived of by AOC +3. She never even studied the environment in college. She went to a nice college. She came out, she just said, the Green New Scam. She just named all these things.
But President Trump, the issue at the moment, the markets are looking at the fact you are making all these promises. Latest one was car loans. You're flooding the thing with giving giveaways.
But we're going to grow.
I was actually quite kind to you. I used 7 trillion. The upper estimate is 15 trillion. People like the Wall Street Journal, who's hardly a communist organization,
yeah, but you don't know.
They have criticized you on this as well. You are running up enormous debts.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? I'm meeting with them tomorrow. What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything. So have you, by the way. You've been wrong about
You're trying to turn this. You're trying to turn this.
You've been wrong about
You're trying to turn this into debate. There are business people.
But you're wrong. You've been wrong. You've been wrong all your life on this stuff. You've been wrong. Let me tell you about currency. You're going jumping a lot of.
Yeah. You said, President.
So here it is. We're seeing Donald Trump sort of turning the tables on the interviewer here, and of course, you know, tariffs would incur a cost. It would lead to more inflation, but you know, as we've covered in this channel, it's sort of pick your choice. You're going to have some inflation regardless of who you pick as president, and on one side you can have inflation and a chance of maybe bringing manufacturing jobs back into the United States, or on the other side you're going to have inflation that's going to be spent on non-productive spending. Now, the main story of the day, Kamala Harris, book publisher, directing very sensitive plagiarism question to higher-ups. And we're seeing here this New York Post article, the publisher of Vice President Kamala Harris' 2009 book on criminal justice reform is directing very sensitive inquiries about apparently plagiarized passages to the highest levels, whatever that means, according to the conservative activist who revealed the copying, Christopher Rufo. We're going to see this in more detail, but this story is not going to receive much media attention. Of course, today now you're going to see there's a few articles. The New York Times sort of trying to debunk this story here, saying conservative activist seizes on passages from Harris' book. A report by Christopher Rufo says the Democratic presidential nominee copied 5 short passages of her 2009 book on crime. A plagiarism expert said the lapses were not serious. We're going to see that that is not the case. The 5 passages that Mr. Rufo cited appear to have been taken partly from other published work without quotation marks, without sourcing, and we're going to see actually these passages, and it's actually pretty damning. Some academics, however, according to the New York Times, have characterized the campaign as racist. So if you plagiarize a book now, it's okay, but if you point out that someone has plagiarized a book, now you're a racist. We remember, of course, the same happening with Claudine Gay, the Harvard president, who also had plagiarized portions of her book, and the same excuse, I can't remember if it was the New York Times or another leftist publication that did it, but it seems to be the excuse. And we're going to have a look here at the passages that were lifted on Kamala Harris's book. So here we see lifted from the Associated Press. He kindly put the colors on here, and you can see it's verbatim. They're word for word taken from other publications, from other books, from other published work. And these are long passages, quite long passages. And you know, this is the worst academic offense that you can do. And when you're writing a book, keep in mind, this book has been sold. I don't know how many copies Kamala Harris has sold of this book, but she probably made quite some money. Here, taking from Wikipedia, straight from Wikipedia, not even serious published work or academic authors. Here she's taking stuff from Wikipedia. Here is the Bureau of Justice Assistance. And these passages are quite long. We're not talking about 1 or 2 sentences, and we're talking about more than the 5 passages actually that were talked about by the New York Times. Of course, the New York Times trying to make this story seem less than what it is, but no matter what, none of the leftist media are going to talk about this story anyway. It will be memory hold very quickly, and I'm pretty sure by the time we get to the election, nobody will remember that Kamala Harris actually plagiarized anything in her book. Anyway, let's move on now to the next story. This was Kamala Harris doing her media tour, and her being on this podcast from, or is it a podcast? It's audio Townhall, whatever that means, from Charlemagne. He's a radio host. Some of you will know him, perhaps. And of course, it is sort of like the sort of interviews that Kamala Harris has been doing these days. Very softball interviews. Interviews with people who, like Charlemagne, pretend to be journalists but are not really journalists. It was also the case with the Call Her Daddy podcast. Essentially, these influencers sort of, just going along and promoting her more than interviewing her. And here we are seeing Charlemagne is going to feed her answers.
You have 2 choices, or you don't vote. But you have 2 choices if you do. And it's 2 very different visions for our nation. One mind that is about taking us forward and progress and investing in the American people, investing in their ambitions, dealing with their challenges. And the other, Donald Trump, is about taking us backward.
The other is about fascism. Why can't we just say it?
Yes, we can say that.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for fitting me the words, because I am not capable to answer these questions by myself. And here, funny, this guy is saying, and people thought Charlemagne was going to be objective, and of course he was not, and he had no intention to actually be objective. He's not a journalist, but for this interview he pretended to be one, and pretended that he was gonna, set up this town hall, quote unquote. And it was nothing like that. It was, of course, for Kamala Harris, sort of a friendly place, a safe place for Kamala Harris to do her interview, unlike the Bloomberg interview that was very adversarial. It's interesting to see, sort of the difference in, of course, the stance in the media. But it's not surprising. We already know that. But of course, we're going to see later in this video, this is going to change, because Kamala Harris, because of the polling now, she's going to have to go out there, and she's going to have to sort of go to the other side to try to seduce voters that are not friendly to her ideology. And she's gonna have to be doing interviews with people she might not like. We're gonna see that in a few seconds. And now her campaign is sort of moving towards seducing or appealing to black men. And we saw that also in a previous video with Barack Obama, sort of patronizing black men, telling them, oh, you guys have to vote for Kamala. What are you doing? And of course, Kamala Harris is getting the lowest numbers from black and Latino voters that any Democratic candidate in recent history has had. And so yesterday, Kamala Harris' campaign came out with an opportunity agenda for black men to provide 1 million loans, fully forgivable, up to $20,000 for black entrepreneurs. And here, an interesting one: protect cryptocurrency investment so black men who make them know their money is safe. Whatever that means, that doesn't mean anything. That really doesn't mean anything concrete. But it's interesting, the choice of word here, sort of to appeal to cryptocurrency and black men, the intersection, I guess, of the two. And the answer was not good. As you can see here, I don't know who this crypto curb is. But he says, no idea what this even means, but sounds racist. Send Kamala back to San Francisco. And here there's final point: legalize recreational marijuana and create opportunities for black Americans to succeed in this new industry. And today, Kamala also reiterated this: no one should go to jail for smoking weed. Legalize recreational marijuana. And perhaps you will remember that when Kamala was the DA in San Francisco, she put people in prison for recreational marijuana. And here we have this guy, what's his name? Jamal Trulove. And before the interview with Charlemagne the God, he put this on social media. Now this guy, Jamal Trulove, was convicted. Was he convicted? I think so. On a case that was it was a wrongful conviction, and it got overturned later, and he was later awarded $13 million after spending 6 years in prison. And that under, of course, the leadership of Kamala Harris. And he there was a Vice interview, and we're going to see that right after that. There was a Vice interview that I watched back in the days, and pretty damning, with Kamala Harris being the DA, her office withholding evidence that would have freed him, and they sent this guy to jail. Let's have a look here.
This message is for Charlamagne the God. As you know, and a lot of other people know, that I have 50 to life in prison, framed and wrongfully convicted under the office of Kamala Harris, right? 4 years ago, we did an interview, and I remember you saying that you believe 100%ly that Kamala should give me an apology for what had happened to me under her administration. So I know you're doing the town hall tomorrow, the audio town hall with her. I would love for you to ask her this question. Does she has any remorse for the people like myself and others who were wrongfully convicted under her administration in San Francisco? And if she does she have any reason to why something like this could have happened, not only to me, but to other people as well? And where does she stand on helping people that's wrongfully convicted under her administration come home from it?
Now, of course, it wasn't that kind of interview, and that was never going to happen. But good for him to actually raise that question. But yes, Charlamagne was never going to ask her that question. It wasn't a real town hall. It was a fake town hall, of course, trying to make Kamala look good. And they would have never asked her a question like that. It would have been very, very difficult for Kamala Harris to answer something like that. And let's have a quick look here at the Vice documentary, short documentary made on this guy. I remember watching this back in the days before Kamala Harris even ran for president, and that was really shocking, to be honest, to see this. Let's watch a few seconds of this here.
Charge me for sales murder. I never talked to no detective, no police officer, no DA, nobody.
Just arrested and then charged.
Arrested and charged, that's it.
Was the first time you saw Kamala Harris in person the day that the verdict was issued?
She showed up at the two most pivotal times in this first trial, and me being convicted and me being sentenced. She wanted to be present for a celebration of a conviction.
That's what it felt like, celebration?
A celebration, that's what it felt like. The reactions I get when I tell people my story is, they say it's the worst nightmare. You know, it's the closest thing to dying.
Jamal, I'm going to read you a quote real quick. The job of a progressive prosecutor is to look out for those overlooked, to speak up for those whose voices aren't being heard, to see and address the causes of crime, not just their consequences, and to shine a light on the inequality and unfairness that lead to injustice. It is to recognize that not everyone needs punishment, that what many need, quite obviously, is help. Kamala Harris wrote that in her book, The Truth We Hold. Does that sound consistent with the with the brand of justice that you saw administered by offices that she was running?
It definitely sounds like Kamala Harris right now as a senator. But at the time of her being the head district attorney of San Francisco, that is almost polar opposite of what I felt and what our community felt in San Francisco. When I put in my appeal, the people that's fighting against my appeal to keep the conviction is the Attorney General office. I learned it reading, their reply to my appeal, and you see Kamala Harris' name at the bottom. And now it's starting to feel a little personal. I'm not necessarily saying I'm looking for an apology, but some acknowledgement from her that she could have messed up will be, of course, that'll be huge. You could have made some mistakes. You could have missed some things. For me, it was a big miss. I had life in prison.
And here it is. You guys can watch this for yourself. But of course, if this guy is waiting for an apology from Kamala Harris, he's going to be waiting a long time. It is never going to happen. But here it is, you know, guys, Kamala Harris now trying to appeal to the opposing side. Rumors that Kamala Harris might be appearing on Joe Rogan's podcast. We will see whether that turns out to be true or not. We don't know if she's going to do it or not. Joe Rogan, apparently both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are inclined to appear on Joe Rogan's podcast. So far, no answer from Joe Rogan. He has previously said that he wasn't necessarily interested in interviewing Trump, but maybe if he can get Kamala Harris and Trump, then he might be inclined to do it, to interview both of them, probably not at the same time, but maybe if he can seem like he's fair and balanced, then he will be willing to interview them. We will have to see. But perhaps Joe Rogan wanting to stay out of politics to keep his podcast sort of a neutral ground for politics. And the other interview that's going to be very interesting to see, Kamala Harris tomorrow on Fox with Brett Baer, and it's going to be interesting to see what she does, but very interesting to see Kamala Harris sort of in a not that friendly territory, at least Brett Baer, of course, being one of the more moderates on Fox News, perhaps someone who can be more neutral, but we'll be seeing Kamala Harris in perhaps her first interview that's not going to be only softballs. Anyway, stay tuned for that. We will watch this tomorrow, and we will see what she will do, if she can do better than the previous interviews that she's done with 60 Minutes. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you made it all the way up to here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and I will see you all on the next one.